Life is a tragedy. Is it? Yeah. Why? Because it's so short and there's so much to do. The problem with life is not that there's nothing to do. The problem with life is that there's so much to do. And by the time you get to a point of realizing all the things you want to do, we start to dwell on the limitations. Oh, I want to travel, but I don't have the money. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You can find it. And it's not that easy. No one said it was easy. There's a difference between impossible and not easy. Eventually you will see the humor in it, hopefully. Because what's so funny? Everything. If you can look at it just the right way. I'm just thinking about the language that we use when someone dies. They've passed. When one of my former students died, I remember saying to the class, and he was a terrible student, I said, well, he finally passed. And that's kind of like the reaction I got as well from the class. No one was sure, like, are we making fun of him? Oh, dude, Aaron would have thought that was hilarious. Aaron's the guy I think I've mentioned before. It's his painting on the wall back there. If you ever look behind the screen, you'll see there's a painting of planets and things back there. His mom gave it to me after he finally passed. Aaron would have thought that was hilarious. What else? Yeah. I always marvel at that. Some people win the lottery and they'll be like, thank you, God, as they're like buying their really expensive house, or while they're dropping a few $1,000s at the club. Thanks for leading me into this club, God. And then when something bad happens, why me, God? Why would this have happened? Aren't you, if God's in control of one, is he in control of both? And so if that's the case, then that means whatever he wants to happen is what's happening. So shouldn't you give thanks in both cases? Right? Thanks for this lottery win. Thanks for my dad dying. That got quiet. Aren't you supposed to give thanks in all things? I don't want to. Why not? Because it's bad. Well, how do you know it's bad?
So much dread.
Why would that be dread? I think it's a good word for it. Well, why do you think that would be dread?
I mean, death is always something everybody dreads. It's not something most people want to experience, whether it's themselves or a family member, a loved one, a friend. You know, it's something that always happens. And I'm sure everybody has their moments where they remember, oh yeah, we're gonna die at some point. It's something we just lie in wait. You know, it's just, I wouldn't say it's always at the back of our minds because like there's different people, and I'm sure you're not very concerned about that.
About death?
Yeah, you don't strike me as a type to like have that in the back of your mind.
No, because I'm not going to die.
You're right.
There's no way I die. I'm immortal. I have a YouTube channel with 341 subscribers. I will live on in the mind. So. But having said that, so I know that if something were to happen to me today, that very moment, those videos would go away. And that'd be it. It'd be like I never existed. And within a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, almost all of you will forget that you were ever even in this class. You'll forget me, you'll forget the things I said to you. And pretty soon it'll be like it never even existed. You remember high school? You may get together in 10 years and be like, what was the name of that one teacher who wore the boots but never actually rode horses? What was his name? Yeah. And during those moments that you guys are fighting, because you said that was kind of like an exception. Like, we get along, but sometimes we fight. Oh, man. Do you realize what's happening when you guys are fighting?
No, just between us and just like for fun.
So this is where I mess with you. There's a lot happening when you're fighting. How old is he?
He's like, I think 2 years younger than me. 17, so he's like 15.
Yeah, and he has no dad. So he doesn't have an older figure. So let me ask you this. Where does he learn how to resolve conflicts? By the way, how helpful is that? Someone talks shit to me, I'm gonna talk back to them.
It's not helpful, but
No, hang on. Let me ask the class now. All right, guys. So you guys all hear this, yes? So you tell me, where does he learn how to resolve his conflicts? Where is he learning how to where is he learning how to resolve his conflict? Say it. You're pointing at him. Yeah. Yeah. Because that's where he learns how to do it. He doesn't know how to do it otherwise. How do you do it otherwise? Someone talks shit, I'm gonna talk shit back to them. Why? Because I don't let that happen. Why not? Is it because your pride is in the way? Because your ego's in the way? Because you think so lowly of yourself that any kind of an insult or a slight to you has to be blown up way out of proportion because it confirms about you what you think about yourself, and so therefore you have to blow up? If someone comes along and says, Scanlon, you ain't Santa Claus, I'll be like, you're right. Yeah. Rather than like, yes I am. You know? Anything at all. Like if someone gets along, he's like, you're ugly. There's a case to be made. I can see that. If someone comes along and says, and you're stupid. I don't know about that. I don't know about that part, you know? You have weird style. Okay, we're back on track now. But the things that you disbelieve yourself and then someone attacks it, those become major explosions because you feel vulnerable in those areas. You feel threatened in those areas. With your nephew, where is he learning how to resolve his conflicts? He doesn't know how to, so then he blows up when someone goes off, when somebody insults him, and what does he get out of it? Changing a job, which means you can never get established at one place. And if you don't get established at one place, you can't get a raise, and then move up, and then get more responsibility, and get more training, and learn how to run a business. You're always starting off at the bottom level. Why? Because your pride and your ego can't handle it. If you're working at McDonald's and somebody comes in and you make a mistake, let's say on their order, or not even you, just a mistake gets made, or they didn't get their fries, and then they go off on you. Are they going off on you? No, they're going off on their boss. They're going off on that person who cut them off on the freeway. You're just the person who they see as being a person who they can dump on. So then they're dumping on you. You're an avatar. You're not a person to them. You're just a thing in front of them that's going to absorb their anger because they're pissed off at someone who they can't go off on. They can't go off on the cop who gave them the ticket on the way to McDonald's. So they go off on you instead. And so he didn't, and this is, especially if you're in a place where you don't feel very good about yourself, then you feel vulnerable all the time, and any kind of a little insult at you, you feel like you can't do anything back to them. My mom used to say, shit floats downstream. And it took me a couple of years to understand what that meant. And once I realized, I'm like, yeah, you're right. People will dump on whoever they think of as being a little bit lower than them. And so, unless you learn otherwise. And so when you're nephew and you argue about soccer, even if it's something small and silly like that, does it become like a big, F you, slamming doors and storming away and don't talk for a week? No, because arguments don't have to be that. But if you never learn how to resolve conflict, that's what they become. And then because that's just, even if it doesn't work for you, at least it's comfortable because it's what you're used to. And so that's one of the really hard things if any of you guys have little kids around you, little nieces, nephews, brothers, sisters, cousins, even if it's just a couple of years, especially if they're from somewhere else. My cousin from San Diego, my uncle from Atlanta. Whenever someone comes in from the outside and they're not around us all the time, we can very well tend to admire them even more because it's different, it's foreign, it's outside. Now, but you interact with them regularly. Well, now you become a role model without even wanting to, because he's studying you, he's learning from you how to resolve conflict. It's just soccer. Not to him, maybe not even consciously, but he learns from you. We all, and this is intuitive if you think about it. We all pick up on things from people. We all learn from things all the time. And it's just a matter of what is it that we're modeling? What is it that you're showing? Especially if it's someone who likes you, even more so. You can learn from a person how not to be. You can also learn from a person how to be. And hopefully those things are kind of conscious. And that's why I said I'm going to mess with you, because now that you become aware of it, it creates a responsibility in you. to teach this person how best to resolve conflicts. Sounds like you're doing okay with it, especially if they stay friendly and you can agree to disagree. You know, some of you guys are Padre fans. Love you anyway. You can be as wrong as you want. Still love you. Just make sure, since your team's not playing tonight, go support the Dodgers. And some of you would get angry about that. Put your Padre things and you think you're part of like a Padre gang. Now we gotta fight because some team I watch on television, I wear the same jersey as them. Do they know your name? No, never met them before. Do they care about you whether you live or die? No, don't even know I exist. But beat LA. Because we pick sides without even realizing it, maybe. But thinking back on the level of tragedy and joy, think about a time in your life when you were happiest. Think about something in your life that made you the happiest. Now, you can enjoy it, but I also want you to remember, you'll never be that happy again. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms? Will you be that happy again? I hope so. I hope that I really genuinely hope that the best of your todays are still better than the worst of your tomorrows. I really do. Because there are people who go through their lives and then they think, I peaked at that one point. I was just saying that this is one of the reasons I never come to the homecoming game. Coming to the homecoming game it depresses me for weeks afterwards. Because you run into people who peaked in high school and they come back and they try to wear their Letterman's jackets, but maybe because they were in the closet for so long, they shrunk, you know? They don't fit anymore like they used to. Or they try to, you know, kind of come back and relive high school for one more day, just one day out of the year. Now there is something to be said about nostalgia and sharing, you know, enjoying some memories. But there's something else about thinking back and saying, maybe the saddest phrase that I ever hear routinely. It just depresses me. Yeah. Remember when? It's just bad when it ends with a sigh. Remember when? Yeah, good times back then. Anyway, I'm going back to life now. It doesn't have to be like that. It really doesn't. Some of you have heard that statement before, that these are the best years of your life. Any of you guys excited about that? Like, wait, this is as good as it gets? And people say, yeah, because after this, you've got bills. Okay. Do you have bills after this? I hope so. Because if you have a rent payment, guess what that means? You have a place to live. You got a car payment. What does that mean? You got a car. Now, if you don't want a car payment, what do? Walk. Take the bus. Take the 210s. Don't buy a car. Oh, but I want to. Great. Then enjoy it, because maybe you've heard me say it before. Life is suffering. You don't get to choose not to suffer. You can choose for the suffering of walking, or you can choose to suffer for a car payment. Which of those sufferings do you want? I choose the car payment. Yeah, walking sucks, especially if you have to get somewhere far. So every time I get in my car, I'm like, this is dope. I have a car. You ever hear those stories about kids like in other parts of the world where they walk 5 miles to school every day? Yeah, my grandparents used to do that probably. Uphill both ways in the snow. And sometimes I generally get in my car, I'm like, man, this is cool. I get to drive somewhere. You go home and you get a place to live. And whatever it is that you have, it's yours, because it's a car payment, it's a house payment. That means that you have stuff. So does having a bill have to be a terrible thing? No. The bills that you don't want are the bills that there are certain bills that suck, like car insurance. And every time I pay my car insurance, it gets automatically deducted, but every time I see an insurance payment, I think, man, I'm gonna go crash my car, just to get my insurance money out of it, just to even it out. But then of course other things go along with that. Those are the annoying things. But I guess here's the thing: do you have to have insurance? I guess so. So then, what do? Do you dwell on it? Because that's what happens here. Life is a tragedy, is it? Yeah. Why? Because it's so short and there's so much to do. The problem with life is not that there's nothing to do. The problem with life is that there's so much to do. And by the time you get to a point of realizing all the things you want to do, We start to dwell on the limitations. Oh, I want to travel, but I don't have the money. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You can find it. And it's not that easy. No one said it was easy. There's a difference between impossible and not easy. How much does it cost to fly? Dude, you can fly to Europe for $400 if you book it far enough in advance. No, but that's $400. Dude, you've got time to save up $400. And by the way, $400 to fly on the other side of the world and back? You're complaining about that, but we won't think anything at all of dropping $100 and something per month on a cell phone, or $100 and something a month for cable, or $100 and something a month for coffee, when you add up how much of it we buy. When you think of it that way, it's like, oh, I could afford to fly over there, I suppose. Yeah, and then you can stay in a hostel for like $20 a night, and you can travel around. You can do a whole European trip for under $1,000. Think about where else $1,000 would go. Insurance, car payment, whatever. It's possible. So then what is it you do? Well, I don't have enough money. So what do? You go get another job. Get 2 jobs. And then you get 1 job until you can save up enough money. One of my jiu-jitsu students right now, he's over in Japan. And he's been over there for like a month. And I like him a lot. I hit him up. I was like, hey, dude, I didn't know you were going. He said, yeah, I told you I was going to go. He told me like 6 months ago. He's like, you know what I'm going to do? I remember the conversation. He said, I'm going to save up my money and I'm going to quit my job. And I'm going to go to Japan. And I'm going to live over there as long as I can.
That's not a great idea.
You would think, but the pictures are cool. He's seeing a bunch of stuff over there. And I asked him when he coming back. And he's like, I don't know, because he picked up an under-the-table job where they pay him a few bucks, and he's able to stay a little bit longer now. Yeah, he has a return ticket that he can change the date on it whenever he wants. So he just keeps every week or so he keeps pushing it back a week, pushing it back a week, pushing it back a week, because he's not sure when he has to fly back. He's not sure when he's gonna run out of money. But if you think like, oh, but I got to come back to a job, that's true. But again, life is suffering, so you're choosing to work the job rather than go to Japan. But here's the point: it isn't like you made that choice. It's you made the choice. That's your life. Your life is made by the things that you choose. That's the freedom, man. And whatever, you can always sit back down and go, I want to go to Japan, but I've chosen this job. But you know what? I've chosen this job. It wasn't chosen for me. I wasn't forced to do it. I wanted to do it. Yeah. And then you can love the life that you lead because it's your life. You created it. Anybody ever make a painting before? You look at it and you're like, you forget which way it's supposed to go because it's so bad, but you hang it up anyway? My painting. By the way, that's my YouTube channel. That's a terrible... That was my talk, though. That was my insult. Or you can look at it and say, man, life is so sad and miserable, and then all of a sudden you have a great day, and everything's great. And you're like, oh, but tomorrow's going to suck. Boom. And every day of your life, you remember back to that one good day that you had. You know, that's what he's getting at here. The joy is the darkest part because it reminds you that you're in the dark. You're in a dark room, and someone lights a flashlight and you turn it back off. You can sit there the rest of your life and go, I remember that one day when someone turned on the light. Yeah. Or you can learn to live well in the dark. Hopefully get out of it at some point. But it's a choice. It's a hard choice. It's not easy to say. It's not easy to do. You know, when you're in the middle of suffering, when you've broken your arm and everyone's laughing except for you, you don't think it's a joke when your arm's compound fractured. Or you can see the humor, because eventually you will see the humor in it, hopefully. Because what's so funny? Everything. If you can look at it just the right way. Is there any subject that you won't joke about? If so, then there's an area that you're missing humor in. You're missing an opportunity to laugh. Just make sure that you're not laughing at people. That sucks. Unless they're your best friends, and you can laugh at them all you want. But you can laugh because of people, because of things. I have this joke I used to tell that I don't tell it anymore because I drive down the street and it's been like, God, it's been so long since I've told the joke. And it wasn't even a joke, it was a true story that really happened. And people think I'm making fun of people when I tell it. It's hilarious. It really is, yeah.
You say the joke or you no?
I could.
Do it.
Yeah, you say.
I'll tell you after this because it's a story. And no, because it's at 24 minutes. I don't like to upload videos that are more than 19. So I have to edit out like 5 minutes of that somewhere. Not that, I know. I think I'm gonna edit the whole damn thing. I don't think I said anything good today yet. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques?